And hello, my name is Logan Motoshami. I am the lead analyst for Housing Wire, and today we're going to be talking about one-touch digital mortgage with our esteemed panels this morning. First of all, let's introduce our staff today. Wonder Woman herself, Katherine Campbell, who is the Chief Digital Officer for Insurance Financial. David, co-founder and CEO of Capacity, and the quiet, mellow Alex, who is the co-founder and CEO of Sales Boomerang. We're going to try to get him out of his shell. It's the holidays. Maybe he had a little bit to drink beforehand, but this fabulous group of people are going to talk about something that's very important today. It's you guys got to up your game in the mortgage business, right? And technology is a great way to do it. But first, we need to talk about what the hell just happened in 2020, right? Because this is, I wrote an article for Housing Wire on February 3rd calling this the chaos, the theory, the butterfly effect. And yes, 2020 was the wildest year ever, bar none. And, the housing market itself started off exceptionally well. Purchase application data was at 11-year highs, 10% year-over-year growth trends. We were heading to the highest levels of sales, and COVID happened, right? And immediately everyone went into their super bearish Great Depression mode. But some of us try to create models and say, hey, listen, the housing market's going to be fine. The mortgage industry is going to be fine. It's going to be hectic. We all remember the mortgage market meltdown in March, but we're going to get through this. Give it a few weeks. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see the two important things ever for housing, demographics and mortgage rates kick in. And that's exactly what happened. After 9 weeks of negative year-over-year data on the purchase application data, we went 28 straight weeks of year-over-year growth, averaging over 20%. Something that very rarely happens in this index, but it happened here. And existing home sales up, new home sales are up, housing starts are up. Originations are up. Why? Because you just have the purchase boom and you have the refinance boom together. And that's what happened. And going out into 2021, with this conversation, everyone's upping their game, guys. All these companies going public, you have to take advantage of technology. And we're still going to have a lot of business in the mortgage industry, but you have to find a way to actually make yourself better. And hopefully today, this conversation will give some people an advantage on the great technologies that we'll go over. Katherine, do you have anything to add to 2021?
Well, we were talking a little bit about the predictions. I do think, and I talk a lot about the lender versus vendor initiatives, and the vendors these guys on the line, Alex and David, are ready to go. They've had this technology. There's been a lot of planning and a lot of execution on it in the last couple of few years. But from the lender side, I would predict that 2021 is really the first year of total adoption. If you look at the phases that any industry and certainly a company goes through in new technology transitions, there's the early phase of selection, right? What are we going to get and why are we going to get it? And then there's the actual implementation and integration between the solutions, and then kind of full adoption of all the teams on board and using these tools. And I would suggest that 2021 on the lender side is largely going to be that. And now the new sort of selection and early conversation is going to largely be around AI and even blockchain for 2021. So much faster than
you must be really excited then.
I cannot wait. All about it.
Sounds
I
great.
was so far ahead of the curve, and then you're right, COVID came, and I'm like, wow, a good thing we're right on track.
So Katherine, one thing about the 14 technologies in 24 months, that's a lot of technologies. What is that basically?
Well, there's two very important paths that are going on here in this industry. And when you start talking about implementing technologies, you have to be sure you are mirroring the paths of success. And those two paths are one for the borrower side, right? What makes their journey easier all the way through the mortgage process. And one is very much so for the originator side. What makes the loan officer's process easier? And how are you connecting the two processes to where the sort of permission settings make sense to both of them, but that you're not losing them in this, what is still new to the company company as well. So a lot of these technologies were not just one side or the other, but to make sure we were meeting the needs of both.
And just for letting anyone know, anyone that's scheduling a demo, you will get a Starbucks card. Brief description, like how is it that the borrower is going to experience this? What's the benefit to them?
Well, the benefit to the borrower is, a few things. First of all, their communication, the ability to be communicated to is very critical because it's the most intense thing that's going on in your mind. It has the greatest amount of your brain share, right? When you're going through either even a refinance, am I paying my mortgage next month? What's going on with my savings, and what do they need for me to get this wrapped up? And then, just trying to get that communication from their loan officer can be very difficult, both when you're in process, so sort of milestone communications, as well as what's needed at the time. So getting these tools lined up to communicate to each other, because it's more than just the point of sale system where you may be uploading the documentation, it's automating the marketing communications out of that lets them know the assets are needed and that their loan has progressed. So that's really the benefit they get. They're not waiting on information. It's coming to them as soon as it's available to us.
Now, for some of us in the LO business, we remember the Transbox days. So all this sounds exceptionally well. I wish I had it, 15 years ago, but the fax machine and Transbox were nothing but a nightmare.
Right. For sure.
And Alex, do you want to chime in a little bit with that?
Sure. I mean, listen, how did you know? Did I look like I had something to say?
I'm trying to get you out of your box because, you're
thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, before I say anything, Katherine, congratulations on the 2020 Trendsetters with Housing Wire. So congratulations to you on that. Hey, there we go.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you. So look, I think what Katherine's getting at is those 14 technologies that she implemented with her team. And you asked the question of how do borrowers benefit. I think just the understanding that someone like Katherine and the entire institution is looking to improve the borrower experience. The reason the implementation of the 14 technologies took place is to help the borrower experience. And some of those things were actually, as Katherine said, was to help the LO, right? But the LO is then having a much better time in this industry. As you just mentioned a second ago, Logan, oh my goodness, don't you wish you had this 15 years ago? Because if you had it 15 years ago, you'd have a smile on your face a little bit more when you did what you did. And so, the benefit of taking a look at technologies that complement each other, just like Katherine was talking about, it's always in the purpose of improving the experience for your customer, which in this case is the borrower. And the way Katherine does it and why she's leading the charge and why she's on this in this conversation is because everything she focuses on is to improve the borrower experience by possibly focusing on improving the LO experience, right? And the side effect of improving the LO experience is the borrower experience, right? And so I just think it's amazing, first of all, to roll out 14 technologies over the course of 2 years is a monumental task. And in 2020, we saw a lot of organizations trying to find what they're going to do because of what was happening with the industry. But you came at it with a plan. And I think why we're on this call together and why everyone is listening is 2021 is going to need a plan too, right? It's even more so, right? Even more so. We just got off the phone earlier today with an organization, a huge organization, that said they actually took 30% out of their marketing budget because there was so much business coming their way. They felt like, hey, we don't need to spend because it's coming to us for free. That was an interesting strategy for this year. What's the strategy for next year? And it is all about planning and execution.
In that planning and execution, Alex and David, so these tools, this is why these tools are so particularly critical for next year, because technology removes the need for you to spend so much time doing non-revenue generating activity, right? If you're spending all of your time logging into all these different tools because you don't have an SSO, you don't have a single sign-on, you can't, and then you get locked out of this tool, so you're calling IT. If you're filling out all of the forms yourself and for, getting the email, uploading it to a platform yourself instead of the borrower doing that automatically, for you, if you're doing all this non-generating revenue revenue generating activity, you're not spending your time generating revenue. So Sales Boomerang obviously very quickly alerts you, which means that, hey, there's activity right now inside your database that says today you need to call this client, which that is a huge customer service to that client, because they are doing something that means they've got mortgage on their mind, and that alerts, the timing between the two and connects those dots very quickly, which is awesome. And then of course capacity has the ability to take that data, and I know we'll talk about Abby in a little bit, and sort of marry it to other activities they would be having to make it even easier to gain access to these tools. So these are going to be the revenue generating tools of next year.
Now, Katherine, I'm dating myself because I know Abby normal, but what is Abby for you?
I love that. You love that you say what is Abby and not who is Abby, because Abby is very much a what. Abby is this little doll right here. She's got her iPad. She's ready to apply and digitally assist you in any way you want. So, go on a little journey with me about who exactly or what exactly Abby is. Imagine that your loan officer wants to start his morning just over coffee, hanging out on his iPad or on his iPhone, and says, hey, I'm going to ask Abby what's going on today. And just by asking that question, she can answer what loans are closing that day, what appointments you have set for the day, what tasks you've assigned yourself, alerts that you may have, new leads to call, all because there's of an integration of all data that you would normally be logging to anyway to find this information, but because of the integration points, it spits it all out in a nice format. And that's because of integration with obviously your LOS for all of the loans closing and where they're closing, your integration with Outlook and understanding what your calendar has, new product releases, what's the corporate calendar, what's going on today, is it open enrollment for your company, what is going on today is the ability that you can ask Abby and answer, and that is what capacity does.
Mm-hmm.
Can Abby actually fix a really tough loan condition?
Abby can be your source to it. Yes.
David, AI. When I think of AI, I think of, shall we play a game? Give us a description about AI in context of this discussion, borrower's intelligence.
Yeah, so when I think about artificial intelligence and borrower intelligence, at the highest level, AI is simply software that learns by picking up patterns on what's happening in the data. And so, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the learning technology was not there to be able to ask a natural language question and get an instant response back with any level of accuracy. Today, across all of our mortgage clients, we have about an 86% response rate, meaning that if you ask Abby or her or its various digital compadres 100 questions, you're going to get a response 86% of the time. When I think about what this means within the mortgage space itself, I think that you end up with a borrower who's more informed, who's going to make a better, smarter, and faster decision about their lending needs. You have an LO that's able to get the information that they need on demand at their fingertips, just like what Katherine said earlier. And you've got an experience where I just want to double down on what Alex said earlier. You don't improve the borrower experience and the LO experience in a vacuum. Everything you do to improve the borrower experience and the LO experience is complementary to each other. And so when we think about what this looks like to apply artificial intelligence into the digital mortgage, it's basically taking all of the steps that you take as a borrower, both the questions you'd ask and the tasks that you take on, and all the steps that you take on as an LO, both the questions you ask and the tasks you take on, and automate as much of that as possible.
Amen. It's a great answer.
So, talking about the borrower's journey, Alex, how much better is this going to get? This looks like to me the future is so unlimited in terms of getting this kind of technology out and efficiency, right? We're all about efficiency.
Yeah. Well, listen, first of all, David, great answer. I think I just mentioned that, so I just wanted to say it again. And we are blessed and to have someone like Katherine pushing the envelope, bringing technologies together, saying that, look, as David just mentioned, the LO experience will reflect the borrower experience. If your LOs hate doing what they do, you're going to see that in your volume, right? If you have 100% of your loan officers hating to come in and do work, they're going to hate it. And they are going to pass that feeling on to the borrower. And so the borrower is not going to come back. And so when you bring together AI, when you bring together borrower intelligence, what you're really doing is you're helping the loan officer do the things that they love to do. And if you interview loan officers, and many of you are on right now, so you should just throw some comments and some thoughts into this when I say this. If you could just do the thing that you love to do, which is speak with people, talk to people, hear them, and then guide them into making the best financial decision, then that would be the best day of your life all day, every day. But right now, without having what Katherine has done in her company, and there are many organizations that think this way, but Katherine has really pushed the envelope. It's right now you have to do things that you're not so excited to do. It's tracking information, looking at things, 18 different logins, right? When you have 18 different logins, right? I see people commenting, keep commenting. You don't want to log into 20 different places, 18 different places, 100 different places. You want to go to one place and everything happens for you. As a matter of fact, let me tell you a story. My kids play a game, okay, called Roblox, okay? This game, there's a bunch of games within this one game. And yesterday they were playing a game where they were building a pizza shop business. I love it. Entrepreneurs. It's beautiful. And they were designing their custom pizzas. And my daughter, who's 6 years old, wanted to create this like 20 different toppings on this pizza. And she wanted to say the best mixed pizza. And I said, well, let me help you spell it. She's like, no. I don't need you to help me spell it. I'm just going to say it into the microphone and it's going to spell it for me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, right? Like, what a change. She doesn't have to think about how to spell something. She can actually get the experience she wants by simply talking, just saying the best mixed pizza. Like, awesome. That's what technology does, right? That's what the right mix of technology does for the experience of the user and the people that are going to benefit from this technology being there. And so when you have AI and you have borrower intelligence mixed together with all of these other technologies that Katherine has implemented, what it does is it equips your team, your producers, which are really going to be thinking about where they're going to spend their time in 2021, believe me. It equips your team, your producers, with this very frictionless path to just do the things they enjoy doing, which is talking to customers. That's what they enjoy doing. They don't want to think about it. They just want to do it. Like if the phone rang all day, every day with customers that were interested in talking to them, every single loan officer would have the best day of their life. Comment if you disagree, but that's the case, right? You just want to talk to people and you want to talk to them about the things that are important to them and you know you have a solution for them. If you don't have a solution and they don't want a mortgage, you don't want to talk to them. So everything Katherine is talking about in capacity and sales boomerang and the other things that Katherine is putting into place makes it possible for the loan officer to just have a great day every day. That's it. That's all it does, which is instantly reflected onto the consumer, which then you get repeat business, retention, referrals, all of these things. It just starts to snowball and probably why Assurance is having an amazing year and going to have an amazing few years moving forward.
You know what? One thing we want to ask is, why is this technology so much better than your competitors? And like, how would you actually measure that kind of success? Because, you know, everybody's trying to get into this. Everybody wants to make everyone more efficient. So explain to people, why is this so much better than everyone else?
Is that,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know. I'm not sure if that was for David or me, but David, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we think about how we measure this in a couple different ways. The first part is that we look at how many questions we can answer for both borrowers and LOs and what that match rate looks like. And today, again, as I mentioned, we're 86% plus, which I would put us up against any conversational interface on the planet with those kinds of scores. Second thing, though, is that in addition to the questions that we can answer, we look at the time saved on the tasks that get performed. So specifically, you take part of the loan origination journey. How much time can we cut out of that process? And I also want to be very, very clear on something that I think is important, that I think hits on what Alex was saying. Most of the clients we work with, they're not in this to just straight cut costs per se. They want to go use the savings that they get from capacity to go generate more revenue and to get their team to be more and more productive. They did a study a few years back, this guy, Hector Garcia, on people who live the longest. And he did this whole search around the globe and ended up meeting up with the Okinawans in Japan. And the thing that he learned about studying these Okinawans over all these years is they have this concept called ikigai, which is kind of the reason for being, where they look at their lives and they see the intersection between what they're good at, what they love to do, what the world needs, and what somebody's willing to pay them for. And so just piggybacking on what Alex said, we want loan officers to be doing what they love and what the company needs and what they can be paid for and what can go make a difference in people's lives. And so that's why we do what we do. That's why we get up every day and why we're super excited to bring this into the workplace.
Excellent. This is for Wonder Woman. What were the 14 applications that were integrated? There's a lot going on here, so.
Okay, I know. I just saw that. I was like jotting down as fast as I can. I'm going to try to jot. I won't name them all. We won't do a commercial here, but quickly what they were about. The general platforms were a CRM, marketing automation, a business intelligence tool, a ticketing system, an appraisal system, database alerts, that is Sales Boomerang AI, that is Capacity, e-closings on the hybrid, e-note, which is its own beast, and now Ron, an onboarding platform for HR and the branches, social media technology, web measurement technology, compliance monitoring, in addition to 2 new websites, with fully integrating a lot of these tools. And that's not even all of it. I can't kind of jot down fast enough. But literally when I came into Assurance, they had an LOS, they had Encompass. And, they had worked a little bit with the CRM. It was not going to be sufficient for our long-term needs. I was walking into only run Blend. I will tell you, it's our point of sale system. And I was supposed to be their tech director for this one tool that was overwhelming to them. I'm like, it's like field. I'm pretty sure I could do this from home. They're like, no, it's a big investment. And I do get it. It's a very big investment. But as I dove into this, I thought, wow, there's actually an industry left that has not even started. So it wasn't like I had to figure out mortgage, which now, I'm definitely deep enough in the trenches where I'm learning mortgage a lot deeper than I, ever thought I would. But it was just like, hey, we've already done this for other industries. Just let's go forward. If you believe this and believe in me and look at the other industries. And that's the biggest piece. When we talk about how we're doing this transformation all the way over, the biggest piece is really 2 things. One, that the hardest thing about this is making it easy. And the second thing is when you're talking to people, particularly your executives, about spending this kind of investment, what you need to do is go through the trail of other industries that have already been successfully doing this. We do not say today, would you like to do a digital travel or an in-person travel? You're like, I just need to book a plane ticket. Where do I click? You don't get a digital plane ticket, right? You just go get it. You go online and you book travel. And that's very much where we're headed with this. And that's why I say that this is no longer, we can't act like we're traditional companies and we have this digital arm over there, right? We are now very much moving into a traditional, a digital platform. We are digital companies, and we are making sure that we bring all the people along with us that are still very much needed in their knowledge.
And David, would you like to add in on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think the big thing that I would say is that if you look at the tech stack of modern organizations, and that's both within mortgage and outside of mortgage, there are essentially 3 layers to that tech stack. You've got your systems of record. So it could be your LOS, could be your CRM, could be your cloud drive. These are the places where you're storing information. Effectively, your big giant databases in the sky. Then everybody realized that, hey, we moved all this stuff to the cloud. We're super excited about it, but we need a system of engagement on top of those systems of record, right? We need a way of accessing it. So we need it in a website. We need it in a mobile app. We need it now in a chatbot format. So you saw these systems of engagement start to emerge. But then there is a middle layer from which I would argue both Capacity and Sales Boomerang play in, which the folks over at Greylock would term as the system of intelligence. So think of that as that middle layer that talks to all of your systems of record, that connects out to your systems of engagement to ensure that you can answer whatever question you need on a pull basis, but also that you can get pushed the information that you need in the time you need it on a push basis as well. And so you could almost overlay I'm sure you could, all 14 of those technologies that Katherine's implemented in terms of, is it a system of record? Is it a system of engagement? Or is it a system of intelligence?
And it seems like to me, everything is so fluid. Is that the goal? Just to make everything as seamless as possible so LOs can actually do their jobs better. And this actually is almost like in having a personal assistant being more efficient for your work. And this can grow, right? And this is just the beginning of many, many years of advancement in terms of being productive. Because when I think about LOs now, compared to what was 15 years ago, those that adopted technology became more efficient, became better, right? And starting with something like this, the growth is unlimited, but you have to be part of the process, right?
Yeah, and I'll just jump in there, and if Alex or Katherine want to jump in on top of that, great. I also think it's really important to make a distinction between a product suite and a platform. And when I think about an organization going through and getting the best of breed across the tech stack, that makes complete sense given where the industry is at, what you're trying to accomplish from your goal perspective, and then just creating a better experience both for borrowers and LOs. At the same time, I think what you're starting to see is that organizations are moving from a disparate set of products or technologies for different parts of the problem to almost like a hub and spoke model where you have a platform at the center that provides that system of intelligence that then goes out and talks to your CRM, talks to your LOS, talks to your guides, talks to your marketing intelligence platform, talks to your loan application. And so I think, yeah, you kind of have this pendulum swing that it's happened in the industry where first people say, oh, let's go build it all ourselves. And then they're like, no, let's go outsource it. And then they're like, okay, well, let's go outsource it from every single vendor, but then they don't talk with each other. Okay, let's go try to find one vendor that can do it all. And of course that never works. And so where I think people are landing is, yes, pick the best vendors for the particular problem set that you're working on, but make sure that they have a platform component and there's a platform in the middle that can go talk to all of your key technology investments so that it's not just a loosely coupled set of technologies, but there's truly a hub and spoke model going on.
And Alex, do you want to chip in a little bit?
I mean, look, I think, the way I look at it, and David, you did a great job, and it's not that complex. I don't know what happened there. It's not that complex to think about. When you look at, for instance, let's forget about the mortgage industry as a whole and think about our own personal experiences as consumers, because we are also consumers, right? And you look at the invention of streaming, and all of a sudden, we don't have to be connected to one place, right? We can actually have all of our entertainment wherever we go. And it's actually improving our life. It's actually improving the way we digest information, digest entertainment, engage with things that we want to engage with. And it's that ability to connect what we were getting, but only getting in one place, right? If we wanted to, as a family, watch a movie, guess what we would have to do? We'd have to sit on the couch and watch a movie. But today, we can all watch our favorite things. And this is very important too. We can all watch our favorite things, and we may not have the exact same things that we love, but we can all enjoy the things that we love on our own. And so when you get to have this technology, this AI, and you have this intelligence and all the other things that we're talking about, it's really designed to create an experience that's individual on a mass scale, right? And so it's all the things that we're talking about that help move this entire industry along, because we just have to remember that we're doing this so that consumers, borrowers can find it easier, more enjoyable to do business with this industry. To be in an industry that has about a 15% repeat business rate, we have to change that. We have to change that. There's been no, and again, what Katherine is doing, what she is truly being a trendsetter for, is this idea of, look, we can do better for our customers. We can do better for this industry, and we can have a situation where consumers actually enjoy the people they work with and expect them to be there for them on the next one, rather than, all right, well, I need another mortgage. Hopefully a realtor has somebody in mind, because otherwise I can't figure out what I'm going to do. No, they should know that they have a partner. They have someone that's looking out for them. They have a situation, a system where they can say, hey, Abby, what should I be doing today? Well, you got 18 sales boomerang notifications, and 5 of those are people that are literally looking for a home right now. Maybe you should start there. And then you forgot to contact this person yesterday. You should probably reach out to them. Would you like me to send a text message on your behalf? Right? Like, that is the experience you want, because that is the experience the consumer is expecting, right? Just like today, 4 people in a house can watch 4 different things, because that's what brings them joy. And that's where every industry is going, not just the entertainment industry, but obviously the mortgage industry too.
Well, and just playing off that too, I think again, to give a massive compliment to Katherine, the biggest thing that you had to overcome was inertia. The inertia of, objects at rest, stay at rest.
There you go.
Technology
Exactly.
at rest, stay at rest. And so once you got that inertia train moving, and you got that object moving off of the old stack, then, whether it's 5 or 10 or 15 or 20, the number of technologies is not really the relevant factor. It's the fact that you got the organization willing to say, we are going to make this investment to ultimately improve the experience both for our borrowers and our LOs. And that you get massive kudos from me on that.
Thank you. And
Exactly.
that is such a good point, because when I walked in and was like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. I mean, you must be desperate over here. They're like, for what? I mean, like, what's going on? So I would recommend, I was just kind of quickly jotting down, to make that inertia happen, you have to have some quick wins. So I'm not suggesting that everybody go to Capacity and Sales Boomerang right off the bat, but these are tools that you ultimately need once you have your platform really steady. And when you prove some wins pretty quickly, then you get that trust to get to the bigger items like this. And this, in the first 3 months, I implemented a social media, the ability from the corporate level to plan out and post social media so that we can schedule all of that. A social sharing tool that went to all of the LOs so that already it's compliance approved and it could quickly go, right? So we could start to build some momentum in marketing. Compliance monitoring, since we knew that we were encouraging the social behavior. Surveys and reviews, what a quick win that is. Every time something comes out of Encompass, it tells Social Survey to send how many stars. Of course, these guys are doing a great job. They're largely getting 5 stars. It pops on their Facebook page. They're like, wow, I love this technology, right? A CRM, and then marketing automation. Those 6 tools I integrated in the first 3 months. I did that selection, implementation, integration, and adoption in the first 3 months. Those were such easy, quick wins that it made them go, what else you got? And so from there, as long as you know what you're doing, they'll trust you with the rest. Do that easier stuff for some quick wins and buy-in first.
Yep.
And when we talk about using this technology, when does the loan officer get kind of cut off and the technology kind of takes over for Alexa? How does that work, or explaining that to someone?
So, the main thing that, again, we want to be sure that we're using LOs for revenue generating, technology for non-revenue generating. So engagement and marketing automation is very much in the earlier stages. When we look at that entire journey that a borrower is going to go through, from the, hey, I've met you once, to, I should refinance. Okay, now you're a lead. You went from someone in my database to someone that's a lead. Let me get pre-qualified. I'll complete the application. Okay, once you use, technology for all the automation behind that to pull them back into the journey, and engaging them, then you use that for that technology for document collection. So this is a really big deal right now, because we are more remote than we've ever been, and I always assume loan officers were always remote, right? They get the freedom to be wherever they want to be. They must be working from their phone on the road all the time. But it amazed me that in the town I was in, I would talk to loan officers and they're like, I've got to get back to the office 7 o'clock at night. I've got to get back to the office because I have a couple of applications to input. I'm like, why are you going to the office for that? What? You had supper with your family and you're leaving now to go to the office to input an application into technology. There is a disconnect here. And so what's happening today is, of course, we're largely required to be remote. Now we have a securities issue. So I run IT too. This year was an absolute, all hands on deck for IT, no doubt about it. And so when you use these portals like the point of sale systems naturally have, and you can use AI to guide you to them. I have a question about this task that's been assigned to me. What do I do with it? It guides them back into the portal. They are securely uploading the information that's asked. They are not emailing it, and my LO is not spending time emailing the request for it to get an unsecured email back with very securitized data. So it's really important that we recognize that data collection is a big piece of that. Finally, signatures, right? I mean, just sign. We can literally populate a DocuSign, even our own custom DocuSign forms right inside of these point of sale systems, send them out, get a credit alert approved and an explanation for certain things right back without a consumer having to go through the heavy lift of writing it out themselves, printing it out, signing it, scanning it in, uploading it to a save file, and then emailing this very secure data through an unsecure medium like email. So it is just really critical that we use these very simple technologies that seem overwhelming to learn for some of these LOs. But once you learn it, you'll go, oh my gosh, the few hours it took me to learn it has saved me months of work through the year. So it's very important.
Katherine, I think you should post what your favorite wine or drink is, and everyone on this call should send you a holiday gift, because you're truly making it easy for everyone, or easier for everyone, to have a better 2021 and moving forward, because you're just, it's perfect. Like the way that you approach this, your mindset has a real reflection on why you guys have had the year you've had and why you're positioned to really just blow up in 2021 and beyond. So everyone that's on this call, this is exactly why Housing Wire puts these things on, is to hear this, but you're hearing it in such a specific and purposeful way that if you aren't taking notes and you aren't excited and you aren't texting and emailing people right now going, oh my goodness, I know how we're going to win in 2021, then you're not listening to the things Katherine is sharing with you guys right now, because it's just brilliant. Listen, this is the biggest, for now, write this down. Your loan officers should be focusing on revenue generation. Your technology should be focusing on the opportunities to create the revenue generation. I mean, that in itself is just an amazing insight.
Thank you, Alex. I would never suggest that I drink a good decoy cab anytime someone wants to offer it to me, but I do appreciate the good.
Perfect.
I feel good there.
And just a
Noted.
general question for everyone. We'll start with Katherine. Security.
Mm-hmm.
We're all of us in the industry know that it's such a crucial problem for us. How safe is everything?
Largely not. If you want to be really direct here, largely not. I think a lot of this was we were woefully underprepared for such a disparate workforce as we have today, and really because technology, it was not understood by leaders who were making decisions. IT was just sort of this, I need a monitor, I need a mouse. Hey, my Outlook didn't open up today sort of thought. It was almost like an afterthought. It wasn't necessarily a line of expertise that was handled inside a lot of these companies. And even whatever they may have had was largely outsourced. There was no, not a lot of in-house knowledge across these companies for the situation that we find ourselves in. So the opportunities to do that quickly are there. Again, we are far from the first industry, and particularly in financial services. There are absolute experts in these fields, and it's something I would not play around with. I would not take it lightly. I would not wait till 2022. I would not wait until after you have your point of sale system up or whatever initiatives you may have today. I would make it a priority, and if it's overwhelming and you don't have the expertise in-house, I would outsource it quickly to get it ramped up, and then find that expertise to come run those systems.
David,
Yeah, I'll jump on that security. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Logan.
Oh, David, would you like to chime in a little bit about the security issue?
Yeah, just quickly, it's important to work with vendors who are SOC 2 compliant, who check all of the formal boxes from a security standpoint, but also the informal boxes. Like, to Katherine's point, how are people going to try to break the system, intentionally or unintentionally? How are people going to use their best foot forward, but end up stepping into something we got to clean up later? So it's both taking a very disciplined and rigorous approach to how we think about security, but also a very empathic approach toward how people actually use the technology itself.
And you know, it's external, like someone who's really after you, right? And this is all over the place, and we're passing a lot of money in this industry, so it's a very interesting place to start for hackers. But then it's internal. It's like, hey, I can't get into the office. They won't let me in today because it's your Tuesday to be in the office and not mine because of COVID. So here's my password. Can you get in my system? I need something. And it's this, you know, it's very good intention. They're trying to work, but this is what's happening everywhere. And so we have to figure out how to find, you know, truly remote cloud solutions that serves you to work wherever you are, that, you know, efficiently.
And here's a question for Katherine. How long does it take to get on board on SB?
I'm sorry, on what? What speed?
Sales Boomerang.
Oh, SB, I gotcha. Yeah, what was I thinking? Oh God, it's like minutes. I want to say we must have had this running certainly less than 2 weeks. It might have been a week, Alex, from the time that, because these guys, here's the deal. There are three things you need to look at when you consider tools. One is, you know, what is their funding? What have they already received in funding? And what is their ability to get more? Okay, that's very critical. This is expensive stuff to go do. Number two is, what is the talent that they have? What's the location that they're in? You know, what are their connections in the sphere of technology? Because a good idea takes a very good developer and UI experienced person. So, you know, what is their sphere of influence within the space? And then finally, it's how much, and this is the big one with SB, how much time are they already spending working with my other vendors? Am I going to have to do all of the introductions, all of the down to the field level explanations of what these tools do and what might be a good idea? For instance, frankly, I introduced Alex and David, right? I'm like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if my LOs inside of Capacity could say, what are my alerts today, right? So they need to do an integration. From the time I introduced those two guys, I've never talked about it again. Look, we're on a webinar together. So clearly they're working together. So if you work with vendors who are already working together, the term time on all of this stuff is relatively quickly because they're already integrated. They've already built these patches.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're very, and thank you, Katherine, for that. One of the things that we're very proud of is understanding that speed is important to this industry. When we started to understand how important it is to go from, hey, we want this, to, hey, we need this, we needed to create a very fast onboarding and very fast implementation time. And to Katherine's point, we integrate with every single, you know, CRM in the industry, with all sorts of ancillary tools and systems, simply because this intelligence helps power everything, helps everything kind of move smoother. And so, you know, time to go live, there's, you know, that's a great question for Katherine. And I'll say this too, that look, if you have your ducks in a row and your team is ready to go, it could take a week. If there's things that are broken and there's no communication within your internal team, then it's going to take as long as it takes your team to get ready. But we move this fast. And I also want to mention something about security and something about 2021 too. So security wise, we started this company with the intention of making this a very secure experience from the start, which is why we don't collect any or store any sensitive information in our system. Katherine and her team, they have paid for all the security they need. This is why we don't need the sensitive information in our system. We just need the basic information to make the magic happen, right? So that way we're never a target. We're never a target for a hacker, because they can get more from Zillow than they can get from Sales Boomerang, because we found a way to sort of do the magic that we do without sensitive info. So we've always thought about security. We've always thought about compliance, and we've always thought about how do we make this very easy for people to make a decision, because we know the impact it's going to have on the business, as Katherine can talk about. And then talking about 2021 as a whole, and how we've come together, and how Katherine has done a beautiful job introducing us to Capacity, and really just the way that you manage the business has allowed us to connect with all of the technologies you mentioned. Is making us look at that, because like, where else can we help them? Where else can they help us? But in 2021, the one thing that I know Katherine knows is that knowing that we're going into a purchase market, you have this intelligence that's going to point out all of the things that you are literally growing. You're growing these opportunities. You have referral partners that need you to refer business back to them so they can do more purchase, because that's going to happen. And when you have this borrower intelligence platform that automatically tells you who to call, when to call, why to call, and all the referral partners that would have missed opportunities now get those opportunities back. And then you add on top of that capacity that makes you talk to your system, right? Just like you do at home and you're talking to Alexa, you're talking to Google Home, whoever you're talking to, you're just using words to make things happen around your home. You're now doing that to make things happen around your business. And so that tech stack is so important, that it's not technology stacks next to each other, but they're technology stacks on top of each other. They're working together. I talk to a lot of organizations that have 14 technologies that sit on a table next to each other, but there's no connection between them. And that's a mess. Katherine, 14 logins, you can make, somebody's brain can literally explode. And so the beauty of what
you'll just
lose them. Look, Katherine, one of the things we did, I don't think I ever told you this, before we launched Sales Boomerang, one of the things we said, if somebody has to log into Sales Boomerang, we're not going live. Like we are not going live in this industry if you have to log in to use our system, which is why our system is completely frictionless, is that we want them to go to the place they go every day, which is your CRM, which is where they are spending most of their time and getting all this intelligence there, which is why you're piping capacity into the same place, because you don't want to remember passwords. I hate remembering passwords. I hate remembering UIs for this, and for that, because I'm not going to use it. I'm only going to use a tidbit of it. You bring in 100% of the use of a technology when you integrate it with an existing platform. 100% of what you want me to do is piped into where you want me to do it when you integrate it properly, which means you're getting everything out of those technologies, not 10%, which we hear all the time. Hey, I'm only getting 10% of what I'm using. That's because you're making people go into those individual platforms to use them, right? So I'll give you one more last example. Netflix wouldn't be where it is today if they didn't integrate properly with cable providers, right? I can now go into my and I know we've all cut the cord for the most part, but I can now go into my cable provider and get my Netflix, my Disney Plus, my Hulu, my everything. And they wouldn't have the growth, they wouldn't have the experience if you had to go into each individual platform, log in to get what you wanted out of it. So again, just a compliment to properly stacking your technology.
And this is for you, Alex. What are the measures of success with Sales Boomerang?
ROI. I mean, bottom line, it's ROI. We don't measure ourselves on how much data we provide. That's less relevant. What's most relevant is, what are you getting back? What is the return on your investment? What are your loan officers getting back? And I'm proud to say that our average clients are getting 24x return on their investment. For every dollar they invest, they get $24 back. And that is a good measurement of success. If you can't get an ROI, why are you doing something? Even if it's a personal return on investment, emotional return on investment, whatever it is, if you're not getting something in return for what you're putting in, then what's the point of doing it? And unfortunately, we've had a world for a long time where we say, hey, I know, we've all heard this phrase. I know you've definitely heard about this slogan. 50% of my marketing works. I just don't know which 50%, right? We want to eliminate that phrase from history, right? And that's why we actually give ourselves a report card and say, hey, this is what you've gotten out of our system over the last month, quarter, whatever it is. And that would be the best way to measure success.
I'll piggyback off of that too, Alex, because first of all, Logan, it is one of the most measurable efforts we have. It's the most measurable effort you can almost have. There's nothing subjective about it. You have a database, they're matching alerts to it. They will show you the alerts that they've matched to it versus that database activity. So did they refinance or purchase this year after an alert came to them? Easy, right? Now that we've been with them over a year, they can give us a loan loss report and say, these are all the alerts we sent you that the LO didn't do anything with, and they went somewhere and got a mortgage because look, they've got a new mortgage and you lost the loan because you didn't answer the alert, right? So that loan loss report, it's a great way for regional managers especially to go down to the database level and help these new LOs or branches that are struggling, and certainly recognize that there's a new way to sort of generate activity within these branches. So it's very measurable.
So how are you different than trigger leads?
So look, this always goes back to data. I try to use an analogy to explain the difference. A trigger lead is a trigger lead, right? It's just a piece of data. It's just a piece of information. But I want to ask whoever asked that question, I want to ask you this question. Did the person that gave you that trigger lead, have they checked in with you on did that person close? Did you take an application? Are you following up with them? Have you sent them this email, this text message? What about this script? What about this voicemail? No, because data in and of itself, when you buy it from a data provider, their job is to sell you data. Their job is not to create a result. Their job is to sell you data. Their job is to give you the best quality data, but they don't care if you get a result from it or not. That's the difference between us. It's when we're working with organizations, we don't care about, don't get me wrong, the quality of our data is top notch. There's nobody better. But that's not what we're focused on. We're focused on the result. Just like Katherine said, it's very measurable. It's very important. Not only what did we get for you, but what did you lose? What did you miss out on? The person that sold you that trigger lead does not care if you missed out on it. We do. We take it personal. We're like, hey, you can do better. We want you to do better, because if you do better, the industry rises, and we want the industry to rise. We want the experience to get better. So the difference between us and trigger leads is we're not a trigger lead system, right? We're an ROI system. We're a no borrower left behind system, right? That's all we ask all the time. How can this industry become a no borrower left behind industry? And so a trigger lead alone does not do that, but a system and a process and something that's measurable makes that possible. So trigger in and of itself is great, but by itself, it's just a trigger. With a system and a purpose, it becomes a lot more. It becomes ROI. That's what it becomes.
This is for David. How quickly can capacity be deployed?
Yeah, so when we think about deploying capacity, we think about it in terms of the three requisite parts. So we've got our AI-powered knowledge base that we can typically turn around in 30 days or less, getting a bot either on your website or internally on your intranet, or plugged into your CRM, or plugged into your messaging platform like Microsoft Teams. In the bottom layer kind of system of record, we've got our help desk. Our help desk comes out of the box. We can get that up and running within a number of days, and then you can configure it depending on what teams and what projects you want to assign to various pieces. Do you want live chat, etc. The part in the middle that we work very closely with your team on is customizing your workflows. So we've got some companies that are like, hey, we just want the bot and the help desk. We're in good shape. We've got other organizations we're working with where we have very highly detailed and automated workflows, mining information out of documents, comparing them against multiple systems of record, and doing automated actions based on what is coming out of those documents. And so depending on which part of the stack you want to deploy, the bot we can typically get out within about a 30-day time frame. The help desk is also a pretty quick deploy. If we've got app integrations, if it's something we've already integrated with, we can turn that on quickly. If it's something we got to go build an integration out with, usually somewhere between, call it a 60-day time frame or so.
So what does the onboarding process entail?
Yeah, so our viewpoint is that in every mortgage company on the planet, all of your company intelligence boils down to three places. It's your apps, your docs, and your people. And so I just use that kind of rule of three there. From an app perspective, we want to connect capacity to as many apps as you have, whether it's your LOS, your CRM, your marketing intelligence tools, your cloud drive, et cetera. Again, many of those come out of the box, but we have our developer platform where if you've got a system that we haven't connected to, or even if you've got a proprietary database that doesn't have an API, we will figure out a way to connect to it and make that happen relatively quickly. So on the app side. On the document side, we think of documents on a spectrum. On the one hand, you've got completely unstructured documents, maybe your employee handbook. On the other hand, you've got your databases that you really kind of treat like a document because they're very structured in nature. But what we found particular to the mortgage industry is we've all experienced this crop of what we would call semi-structured documents. These are documents that you want to treat like a database, but they've got different rules and different regs and different sections. So we want to be able to mine those so you can ask questions into your documents over time. And then lastly, the knowledge of your team. So we don't discount the fact that you've got LOs who've been working with you for 20 years who know the industry cold, know your organization cold, might know your overlays, might know your specific nuances. And so we spend time up front trying to effectively take the wisdom of the crowd in terms of what does your team know? How do we get that into the knowledge base quickly, make that accessible? So between those three places, your apps, your docs, and your people, you don't have a support product. You have a support automation platform that you can build your entire business around.
And if capacity doesn't know the answer, what happens?
Great question. So no matter how good our tech is, there are always going to be questions that capacity doesn't know, just like any team member that you'd hire. And so if you ask Abby a question and Abby didn't know the answer, first he'll come back and say, hey, did you mean one of these sources? And if you're like, oh yes, great, it'll start to remember that. If the answer is no, then if there's a live chat agent available, they can jump in. It can be either an internal live chat or customer facing or both. If you haven't signed up for live chat or that's not part of your workflow, we create a ticket in the capacity help desk system. If you have an existing help desk, we're happy to create it in that system as well. The advantage of using ours though, is that when what we would call a co-pilot or an admin goes into that help desk and they answer that question, we will store it automatically in the knowledge base for next time. So we like to call it no question left behind. Where no matter what question you ask, you will always get a response. And if you're that person who answers questions day in and day out, you no longer need to live in Groundhog Day. You answer that question once, it's in the system going forward.
Okay, and you know, I know we touched base on this earlier, but you know, how can you make sure confidential information doesn't get into the wrong hands?
Yeah, so the entire system is designed to be using a concept that we call cascading permissions. So the first thing is that capacity can only act on the data that the original system has. So if you've got your Logan's super secret take over the world plan document, and I ask capacity for it, if you never shared it with me on Microsoft OneDrive, my instance of capacity literally does not know that it exists. And I think that's not entirely a fictitious example. I think Logan actually has that document.
100%. Based on the painting that he has in the background, 100% he has that. 100%.
And I know there's a blockchain question, but thoughts on early adoptions given to the requirement that the industry needs to work together for blockchain?
Yeah, Katherine, did you want to take that one, or I can take that one, either one?
Well, do you want to take it from an AI perspective or just generally? I'll quickly say that when we talk about security and instant knowledge, right, immutable data, that very much has to come, let's just get real, follow the money, right? When you look at the pace, the faster we go from I need a mortgage to fund and sold, really, from I need a mortgage to sold, the faster we do that, the faster everyone starts making more money. So yes, we have to do these things because of COVID, and we need to get more technically astute just because the rest of the world is. And now the expectation of millennials and Gen Z is that that's the only way they will do business. But at the end of the day, we're all making more money faster. And the only way to solidify immutable data and get it all from appraisal knowledge and assets and title knowledge is through blockchain. And so that is not only pie in the sky, that is absolute, happening right now, that we can get that data. We just have to kind of move the industry forward. That's the why. So David, you probably have a how.
Yeah, I think that the one thing I'd add to that, Katherine, is the idea of the ledger, of being able to have the record of what's happened and have that be locked and able to be revisited down in the future. I mean, we're going into an environment where we have to expect that there will be scrutiny around certain types of transactions. And so having that in a digital ledger where it's all available, it's accessible, it's recreatable in terms of why certain decisions happen, I think that's going to be a big part of how blockchain gets adopted and developed.
Yep. Great.
Well, this is a lot of great information. I wish you guys were here 15 years ago.
Imagine 15 years from now.
Yes. Yes.
Imagine
Always looking out.
do this time next year. Imagine that.
I hear in 10 years we're going to be reading Logan's book. That's what I heard.
Well, it's wonderful to have everyone. This has been, I've learned a lot myself, you know, even though I retired from the business, boy, I would be using this immediately.
There you go. You could still be an advocate.
Always.
This was fun.
Thank you so much, Katherine. Thank you so much, David. And Alex, I'm glad we got you out of your shell today. And
Thank you so much.
uh,
I'm a new man. I'm a new man after today.
yes, have a good drink for all of us.
Thank you. Very
Thank
good.
you all.
Take care. Happy holidays.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.